I want to begin with a number. That number is $36.5 billion. That is the estimated amount stolen from older Americans every single year through financial fraud and exploitation. Not borrowed, not lost in bad investments, stolen deliberately, methodically, and in most cases, legally enough that nobody goes to prison for it. $36.5 billion every year. To put that in perspective, that is more than the entire annual GDP of many small nations. That is more money than the United States federal government spends on certain entire departments in a year, and it flows quietly and continuously from the retirement accounts and savings and home equity of people who spent 40 or 50 years building it, out of their hands and into the pockets of people who learned a very specific set of techniques for separating disciplined, hardworking, trusting human beings from everything they accumulated across a lifetime of sacrifice. I'm going to talk about this today because I believe it is one of the most urgent financial conversations happening in America. And almost nobody is having it honestly. The financial industry talks about retirement planning. It talks about asset allocation and sequence of returns, risk, and safe withdrawal rates. It produces an enormous volume of content about how to build wealth in preparation for retirement. It almost never talks about the predators waiting at the finish line. And there are predators. Sophisticated, well-funded, professionally trained predators who study the neuroscience of aging, who understand the specific cognitive vulnerabilities that develop as the brain matures, who craft their products and their pitches with clinical precision to exploit exactly those vulnerabilities. They are not offering investments. They are operating traps, and the traps are baited with one of the most powerful words in the entire vocabulary of human desire. That word is guaranteed. Guaranteed returns, guaranteed income, guaranteed principal protection, guaranteed peace of mind. I have spent my entire life in finance. And I want to tell you something plainly. In the real world of investing, nothing is guaranteed except the behavior of the United States Treasury. That is the only guaranteed return available to a rational investor. Everything else, every other instrument, every other product, every other vehicle, carries risk. The only question is how much and whether it is visible or hidden. When someone offers you a guaranteed return that exceeds the treasury rate, they are not offering you a miracle. They are telling you a lie. The lie might be dressed in a prospectus. It might be wrapped in legal language. It might be delivered by a man in a suit with impressive credentials on his wall, but it is a lie. And today I want to give you the tools to recognize it before it costs you everything you built. Before we talk about the specific schemes, I need to talk about something more fundamental. I need to talk about your brain, not as an insult, not as a diminishment, as a matter of scientific fact that the predators understand and are actively using against you and that you deserve to understand about yourself. The human brain changes as it ages. This is not a flaw. In many dimensions, the aging brain is vastly superior to the younger brain. Accumulated wisdom, pattern recognition built from decades of experience, emotional regulation, the ability to see the long view. These are genuine advantages that come with age and should not be minimized. But there are also specific changes that create specific vulnerabilities. And the predatory financial industry has mapped these vulnerabilities with extraordinary precision. The first change is processing speed. As the brain ages, the speed at which it processes new, complex information slows. This is not a dramatic decline in most people. It is subtle, but it is measurable. And it means that when you are presented with a complicated financial document, pages of dense legal language, complex product specifications, intricate fee structures, multi-layered contractual terms, your brain takes longer to parse it than it did 20 years ago. The predator knows this. The predator designs the presentation to exploit this. The pitch is fast. It is enthusiastic. It is delivered in a high-energy environment with social pressure and time urgency. The documents are long and technical. The simplified summary that is spoken aloud to you bears only a surface resemblance to what the documents actually say, and the pace of the whole interaction is calibrated to outrun your ability to process it completely. The second change is something that most people find counterintuitive. As the brain ages, trust increases. This is a documented neurological phenomenon. Researchers at the University of California studied brain imaging data from people of different ages and found that older adults show reduced activation of the anterior insula, a brain region associated with the recognition of social threat. In simpler terms, the part of your brain that detects when something feels wrong, when a person seems untrustworthy, when a situation has the texture of danger, that region becomes less sensitive with age. Simultaneously, older adults show increased activity in regions associated with positive social emotion. They are more inclined to believe people, more inclined to give the benefit of the doubt, more inclined to interpret ambiguous social signals as friendly rather than threatening. This is not a weakness in any moral sense. It is, in many ways, a beautiful feature of a brain that has learned through decades of experience that most people are basically decent and that the world generally works out. It reflects a lifetime of accumulated social trust, but the predator does not deserve that trust, and the predator knows that you are inclined to extend it. The third change is what researchers call financial decision-making peak. Studies suggest that financial decision-making ability peaks in human beings around the age of 53. Before 53, the brain is accumulating the experience and judgment needed to make good financial choices. After 53, while wisdom continues to grow, certain specific cognitive skills involved in evaluating novel financial products begin to gradually decline. Precisely at the moment when you have the most wealth to protect. Precisely at the moment when the stakes of a bad financial decision are highest. Precisely at the moment when you have the least time to recover from a catastrophic loss. The predatory financial industry targets this window with surgical precision. I am not telling you this to frighten you. I am telling you this because the predators have known it for years, and you deserve to know it too. Awareness is the first defense. Understanding the mechanism of the trap is the beginning of the ability to avoid it. Now let us talk about the specific traps. The first trap is what I call the complexity camouflage. There is a product category in American finance that generates more complaints, more litigation, and more regulatory action than almost any other retail financial product. That category is the annuity, specifically the indexed annuity and the variable annuity. Now I want to be precise here. Not all annuities are bad products. A simple immediate annuity, you give an insurance company a lump sum, they give you a guaranteed monthly payment for the rest of your life, is a straightforward product with a clear value proposition. It is priced fairly. It is easy to understand. It solves a real problem for people who are worried about outliving their money. That is not what I am talking about. I am talking about the products that are sold under the same general label of annuity, but bear no meaningful resemblance to that simple concept. Products with names like equity indexed annuities, fixed indexed annuities, registered index linked annuities, and variable annuities with guaranteed living benefit riders. These products have surrender periods of 6, 8, 10, even 16 years. They have fee structures so complex that the product's own salespeople frequently cannot accurately describe them. They have participation rates and cap rates and spread rates and floor rates that interact with each other in ways that require an actuarial model to fully understand. They have guaranteed income benefit riders that sound like guarantees, but are guarantees on a notional account value, not on your actual invested capital. They are designed to be incomprehensible. Not because comprehensibility was sacrificed in the service of some other valuable feature, but because comprehensibility is the enemy of the sale. If you fully understood these products, the vast majority of you would not buy them. The complexity is not incidental. It is architectural. Here is what you need to know about any annuity you are offered. Ask for the total cost all in as a percentage of your invested capital per year, not the stated management fee, not the mortality and expense charge, not the administrative fee, all of them added together. In many indexed and variable annuity products, this number exceeds 2% per year, sometimes 3% or more. It does not sound large, but over 20 years, a 2% annual fee drag against a reasonable investment return is the difference between your money doubling and your money nearly tripling. It is the difference between financial security and financial mediocrity. And it flows continuously from your account to the insurance company, whether the market goes up or down. Then ask for the surrender charge schedule. Ask what happens if you need your money back before the surrender period ends. In many of these products, surrendering in year 1 or 2 costs you 7, 8, even 10% of your invested capital in surrender charges alone. Then ask for the commission being paid to the salesperson presenting this product. If they hesitate to tell you, or if they describe it in vague language, or if they tell you that the product pays no commission and the product is an annuity, they are not being fully truthful with you. Indexed annuities routinely pay commissions of 6, 7, 8% of the invested premium to the selling agent. This is not illegal, but it creates an incentive structure that does not point toward your well-being. The salesperson who sits across from you and tells you about the guaranteed protection, the guaranteed income, the guaranteed peace of mind is being paid thousands of dollars to say those words to you, in many cases tens of thousands of dollars, and those dollars are ultimately coming from your return. The second trap is what I call the private placement illusion. There is a category of investment that sounds enormously prestigious. It is called private equity or private placement or private real estate, or by a newer and increasingly common name, alternative investments. These words carry a powerful psychological charge. They sound exclusive, they sound sophisticated, they sound like the kind of thing that institutions and ultra-high net worth individuals access, while ordinary people are limited to the mundane public markets. This is, in many cases, exactly the impression the salesperson wants you to have. Here is the truth about the private placement market as it is frequently sold to retail investors approaching or in retirement. The real private equity industry, the large professionally managed funds that invest in businesses and generate genuine long-term returns, is largely inaccessible to retail investors. It requires minimum investments of millions of dollars. It has rigorous due diligence processes. It has institutional oversight. It generates real returns through real operational improvement of real businesses. What is sold to retail investors as private equity or private placement is frequently something entirely different. It is frequently a non-traded REIT, a real estate investment trust that is not listed on any public exchange, which means there is no daily market price and no easy way to exit your investment. It is frequently a business development company with high fees and illiquid underlying assets. It is frequently a direct participation program, a limited partnership in oil and gas or real estate or some other tangible asset, with fee structures that consume a substantial portion of your returns before you see any of them. These products share several structural features that you should recognize as warning signs. They are illiquid. You cannot get your money out on demand. The holding period may be 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, or indefinite, depending on when the manager decides to liquidate. They have limited price transparency. Because they are not traded on public exchanges, the stated value of your investment is determined not by the market, but by the manager's own appraisal. A manager who wants to appear to be generating returns can, within limits, manage the reported value of the portfolio. You cannot verify the real value independently. They have high front-end loads and annual fees. A typical non-traded REIT charges 7 to 10% of your invested capital as upfront fees. This means that on day one of your investment, before you have generated a single dollar of return, you have already lost 7 to 10% of what you put in. And they are sold with projections that are not guarantees, that are not backed by any contractual commitment, and that frequently are not achieved. When the salesperson sits across from you and tells you that this private real estate fund has generated 8, 9, 10% annual returns historically, and shows you the track record, ask them the following questions. Is that return audited by an independent third party? Is that return net of all fees? If the fund is not publicly traded, how was the return calculated and by whom? What is the liquidity, and what specifically happens if I need my money back before the fund liquidates? And what happens to my investment if the manager goes bankrupt or goes to prison? These are not hostile questions. They are the basic due diligence questions that any rational investor should ask before committing capital. If the salesperson cannot answer them clearly and completely, you are not being offered an investment. You are being asked to trust someone who has not earned your trust. The third trap is the newest and in some ways the most dangerous. I call it the digital legitimacy illusion. Cryptocurrency and digital asset fraud targeting older Americans has grown at a rate that should frighten anyone paying attention. The FBI's Internet Internet Crime Complaint Center reported that Americans over 60 lost more than $3 billion to cryptocurrency fraud in a single recent year. That number is almost certainly an undercount because many victims never report the crime. The shame of having been deceived compounds the financial damage. The mechanism of cryptocurrency fraud targeting older Americans has evolved significantly from the simple schemes of the early years. It is no longer just strangers sending emails with implausible promises. It has become sophisticated, patient, and deeply personalized. There is a scheme currently operating at enormous scale that the FBI calls pig butchering. The name is ugly and intentional. It refers to the practice of fattening a pig before slaughter. Here is how it works. You receive a contact, a text message, a social media connection request, a message on a platform you use regularly from someone who appears to be a person roughly your age or younger, with a coherent and appealing online identity. They are friendly. They are not immediately trying to sell you anything. They build a relationship over days, weeks, sometimes months. They ask about your family, your interests, your life. They share their own. They are warm, consistent, and patient. At some point, casually and without pressure, they mention that they have been generating excellent returns through a particular cryptocurrency platform. They may show you account screenshots. They may offer to help you get started. They may set up a small initial investment on your behalf and show you impressive returns accumulating in real time. The platform they direct you to looks professional. It has charts and dashboards and customer service and everything you would expect from a legitimate financial operation. The returns you see on your screen are real in the sense that the numbers on the screen are genuinely increasing, but they are not real in the sense that matters. The money is not there. The platform is controlled by the fraudsters. The returns are fabricated, and every dollar you deposit is immediately in the hands of the people who built the system. When you eventually try to withdraw your money, which may take months or years because the scheme is patient and the fraudsters encourage you to reinvest, you will discover that the withdrawal requires a tax payment or a fee or verification funds. Each of these requirements extracts more money from you, and ultimately the platform disappears. The friendly contact disappears. Your money is gone. The FBI has linked these operations to organized criminal enterprises operating primarily from Southeast Asia, employing thousands of people in conditions that are themselves a human rights catastrophe. The scale of the operation is industrial. The sophistication is extraordinary. And the targeting of older Americans is deliberate. The protection against this scheme is simple in concept and requires only discipline and execution. Any investment opportunity that came to you through a personal relationship that began online with a person you have never met in physical space is fraudulent until proven otherwise. Full stop. This is not cynicism. This is pattern recognition. Legitimate investment opportunities do not arrive through romantic connections or unexpected friendships with strangers on the internet. They arrive through regulated channels, licensed professionals, and verifiable institutions. If someone you met online is encouraging you to invest money in anything, show that communication to a trusted family member or financial advisor before taking any action, not after, before. Now I want to give you the single most powerful tool I know for protecting yourself from all three of these traps. I call it the 3-day third-party rule. It is not complicated. It has only 2 components. But in my observation of how financial fraud operates against older Americans, consistent application of this rule would prevent the overwhelming majority of it. The first component is the waiting period. No financial decision of any consequence should be made in the same meeting, the same day, or even the same week as the pitch. Period. Without exception. I do not care how good the offer sounds. I do not care how limited the opportunity appears to be. I do not care what the salesperson tells you about a deadline or a window that is closing or a special price available only today. Any legitimate financial product will be available tomorrow. Any legitimate investment opportunity will still exist after a 3-day waiting period. Any legitimate financial professional will not only accept your request for time to think, they will actively encourage it. When a salesperson tells you that you need to decide today, they are not telling you about the product. They are telling you about themselves. They are telling you that the product does not survive scrutiny, that if you have time to think about it, you will not buy it, that the pressure of the moment, the social dynamics of the room, the enthusiasm and momentum of the pitch are essential features of the sale, without which the product cannot be sold on its merits alone. Take the 3 days, always, without exception. The second component is the third-party review. Before committing to any financial product that was presented to you in a sales context, any annuity, any private placement, any alternative investment, any cryptocurrency opportunity, any structured product, you must show that product to a qualified, disinterested third party before signing anything. I want to be precise about what disinterested means. It means someone who is not being paid a commission on the sale. It means someone who has no financial stake in whether you buy or decline. It means someone whose incentive is entirely aligned with your well-being rather than with the transaction. This may be a fee-only financial advisor, a person who charges a flat fee or hourly rate for their time and who accepts no commissions from product sales. This may be a trusted family member with relevant financial sophistication. This may be an attorney. It may be a CPA. In some communities, it may be a nonprofit credit counseling service. What it cannot be is anyone recommended by the salesperson. What it cannot be is anyone who stands to benefit from the sale. What it cannot be is anyone who tells you the product looks fine after a 5-minute review without examining the actual documents. The third-party review should include a specific request. Please read the actual contract language and tell me what the fees are, what the surrender charges are, how long my money is locked up, and what recourse I have if the issuer goes bankrupt. If you cannot find a third party to review the product before the deadline the salesperson gave you, that is not a problem to be solved by making the decision without review. That is an instruction to decline the product. I want to speak directly now to a specific situation that I know is occurring in millions of American households because I have heard about it from enough people over enough years that I know it is nearly universal. There is a moment that happens in many families when an older parent mentions a new financial product or investment opportunity to an adult child or other younger family member. And the younger family member, concerned or worried, tries to explain that it sounds risky or too good to be true, or that they should get a second opinion. And the older parent becomes defensive. They feel infantilized. They feel that their intelligence and their judgment and their lifetime of experience are being dismissed, and they push back. And the conversation becomes difficult. And sometimes it ends with the parent feeling hurt and the child feeling helpless and the product getting purchased because the relationship could not sustain the disagreement. I want to address both sides of this dynamic. To the adult children who are worried about a parent's financial decisions, I want to say this: your instinct to protect is right and your love is real. But the approach matters enormously. Your parent has made good financial decisions for decades. They built what they have. They are not incompetent and they are not incapable of reason. They are being targeted by professionals who have studied their psychology and designed their pitch with clinical precision. The appropriate response to that is not condescension. It is solidarity. Do not tell your parent that the investment sounds like a scam. Ask if you can look at it together. Do not tell your parent that they are being naive. Say that you would feel better if you understood it yourself. Do not make it about their judgment. Make it about the 3-day third-party rule, which applies to everyone regardless of age or intelligence or financial sophistication. And to the older Americans who may have had this conversation with a worried child, I want to say something different. The instinct to resist is understandable. You have earned your judgment. You have earned the right to make your own decisions. And you are right that many younger people underestimate your sophistication. But I want to ask you to consider a different frame. When a salesperson pitches you on a financial product, they have prepared for that conversation exhaustively. They know the objections, they know the rebuttals, they know the psychological pressure points. They have been trained, sometimes for years, to close this specific kind of sale. It is not a conversation between equals. It is a professional operating against someone who encountered the pitch for the first time. The 3-day third-party rule is not a concession to your family's worry. It is the same standard I apply to every significant financial decision. Not because I distrust my own judgment, but because I know that good judgment benefits from reflection and that the best decisions are rarely made under pressure. You spent 40 years being careful with your money. This is not the moment to abandon that discipline. Let me give you a specific checklist, a set of questions that should be applied to every financial product sold to you in the context of retirement income, capital preservation, or wealth protection. The first question is, what is the total annual cost of this product in percentage terms, including all fees, charges, and expenses? If the salesperson cannot give you a single clear number, the answer is that the total cost is being hidden from you. The second question is, what is the surrender period and what is the penalty for early withdrawal? Any answer longer than 3 years and any penalty greater than 2% should trigger serious skepticism. The third question is, how is the return on this product guaranteed and by whom? A guarantee is only as good as the guarantor. A guarantee from an insurance company depends on the solvency of that insurance company. Ask for the insurance company's credit rating and look it up independently. The fourth question is, how are you compensated for selling this product? A legitimate financial professional will answer this question clearly and completely. Anyone who hesitates, deflects, or tells you that it costs you nothing should be shown the door. The fifth question is, what happens to my money if you, your company, or the issuer of this product goes out of business? The answer to this question tells you more about the real risk of the product than anything in the marketing materials. The sixth question is, can I have 3 business days and the name of a third-party reviewer before I make any decision? If the salesperson tells you that the opportunity will be gone in 3 days, treat that as the most important data point in the entire conversation. These 6 questions, applied consistently, will not make you immune to every form of financial predation, but they will eliminate the vast majority of it, because the products that cannot survive these questions are the products that were designed to be sold before the questions could be asked. That is all. Thanks for watching. Thanks.